हेलो दोस्तों, दिस इज भारत कुमार एंड यू आर वाचिंग माय चैनल निर्मल इन्फो अपडेट्स।
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left.
India squarely blamed China for starting the violent clashes in the Galwan Valley on Monday night, which saw casualties on both sides and a serious escalation of hostilities with deaths in a border clash for the first time since Longlaw in 1975, when India lost over 10 men in a fight with Chinese troops. In a statement almost 24 hours after the clashes in eastern Ladakh and hours after a Chinese statement, the MEA spokesperson rejected the charge that Indian troops adapted in a provocative manner and accused China of refusing to respect the agreement on de-escalation reached on June 6. It was an indication that India would take bolder steps to get the Chinese off its territory, a move that may be translated on the ground in coming days. Reacting to the violent face-off between India and China, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said that Pakistan was observing the developments carefully but that it held India responsible for the conflict. India should have never built roads and airstrips in a disputed area, he said. He was speaking to anchored person Shehzad Khanzada on Geo News. This isn't a new dispute between the two countries. If you remember, the India and China even fought a war over this in 1962, Qureshi said. First, I heard that Indian soldiers were physically beaten and now I'm hearing that 20 soldiers have been killed and that number could rise, he added. The foreign minister said that India does not have good relations with any of its neighbors. India has issues with us, China, Nepal and even Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Bangladesh used to be a good friend of theirs, but after the Citizenship Amendment Act, relations between the two countries have become tense, he said. The Galwan clashes, the bloodiest India and China have ever experienced since at least 1975, shows the rising ferocity of the India-China engagement on the borders. With one of the largest losses in recent years, an Indian retaliation is assured. But on a larger scale, China lost India on Tuesday. In many ways, this government, like previous ones, has been guilty of being almost indulgent of Chinese intrusions into Indian territory, which have become more insistent and violent in the past few years. The stock explanation from ministers, even the defense minister, is about differing perceptions of the LAC. In fact, it may be this that has emboldened the Chinese to take greater liberties at this point. The Chinese are well entrenched in Pangongtso, while the Galwan Valley has become a face-off point. In faraway Nekla, a Chinese presence has persisted at a place between the point India sees as the LAC, a ridge, and a stone wall, which China claims is the LAC. It is to be seen whether the de-escalation process continues or whether the Chinese dig in even further. At any rate, even without further clashes, the standoff is likely to continue through the summer and get more belligerent. India has promised to continue building its border infrastructure, even at the risk of inviting further face-offs with the Chinese. Why China undertook these intrusions into Indian territory remains the top question of this year. The best-case scenario involves punishing India for its greater involvement with anti-China allies like the Quad. It could be a consequence of Xi Jinping needing to divert attention away from a series of troubles like Hong Kong, economic slump and a slow decoupling with the US. It could also be a way to send a message to the US and other countries who China believes has ranged against it, by messing with India, putting it off balance and humiliated with loss of men and territory. China may have seriously miscalculated. For one, India is now almost politically bound to take action, if the Modi government isn't to be seen as a global whack-giver. Second, China's actions in the past weeks achieved precisely the opposite of what it wanted. It has pushed India into much closer partnerships with the West. Third, much more than a military retaliation, India is likely to take more economic steps against China. Certainly, this year will not see a yuan -3. The India-China 17th anniversary celebrations have just been shot to pieces. PM Narendra Modi and Xi had planned 70 events this year. Modi will not visit China, not with the deaths of 20 Indian soldiers and officers on his mind. On the multilateral front, with India in the UN Security Council, New Delhi is likely to push back against China appropriating the top jobs in the UN. After India put Chinese investments on a prior approval list, there is talk in the government of slowly weaponizing the Indian market, which, frankly, is the largest that China can hope for now. Chinese companies are unlikely to get Indian government or many private sector contracts anytime soon. Most important, Huawei's already dim chances of bagging India's 5G market just got a lot dimmer. But first, India will have to work much harder to get the Chinese off Indian territory. The United States voiced hope that India and China will peacefully resolve differences after at least 20 Indian soldiers died in the Asian powers' deadliest clash in decades. Both India and China have expressed a desire to de-escalate, and we support a peaceful resolution of the current situation, a State Department spokesperson said. The spokesperson said the United States was closely monitoring the situation and, referring to India's announcement of casualties, said, "We offer our condolences to their families." U.S. President Donald Trump last month said he was ready to mediate between India and China, although his administration could not offer further details on what he was proposing. The State Department spokesperson said Donald Trump had discussed the situation with China in a June 2 phone call with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India is an emerging ally of the United States, which is mounting friction with China on multiple fronts. Alice Wells, then the top State Department official for South Asia, last month said that China was seeking to upset the status quo with India and had to be resisted.
Yeah.